Hello there. I'm hoping you all can hear me. Good evening, and thanks for joining our South County, Santa Cruz County Candidate Forum on Housing. As many of you may already know, the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership is a nonprofit member-supported organization that works across our Tri-County region, which is Santa Cruz, Monterey, and San Benito counties. Our work focuses on specific initiative areas that are the underpinning for a thriving economy: affordable housing, a strong workforce pipeline, ubiquitous broadband access, and climate change mitigation, which includes transportation improvements. Tonight's candidate forum is part of our advocacy and education work to help increase the supply of housing of all types and income levels across the region. MBEP has been doing these nonpartisan election forums for 4 years. Everyone is welcome, and the hope is that the issues are discussed in a way that brings clarity to public policy. The mission of MBEP is to improve the economic health and quality of life in the region, and these types of forums contribute to that mission. I'd like to thank MBEP's housing team for their engagement with the jurisdictions represented tonight by actively providing technical assistance to help meet our region's housing goals. This technical assistance comes in the form of providing recommendations for new development opportunities, such as the redevelopment of the Capitola Mall, and our team has also been leading the Farm Worker Steady Action Plan in the Pajaro Valley to help create more housing for this essential workforce that too often lives in overcrowded and unsafe conditions. MBEP supports creating a range of housing options, especially more housing affordable to low-income residents. We have designed the forum to focus on key housing issues that need thoughtful leadership from our elected officials. Our goal is to provide this platform for candidates during this election and to help voters make an informed decision. Many thanks to the El Pájaro Community Development Corporation and to Carmen Herrera for joining us as co-host. And now I'd like to throw it back to Rafael Hernandez, one of MBEP's Stellar Housing Program Associates, and hand the program over to him. Rafael.
Thank you so much, Kate. I appreciate that. Good evening, buenas noches. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today from your office, from your home, wherever you're tuning into us from, and thank you for spending the evening with us. Before we begin, I want to remind folks again about the interpretation option that we have. Lo anuncié antes, pero hay esa opción de interpretación. Solo busque el botón abajo de la pantalla. The other announcement I want to make is that our show is being recorded tonight, and you'll be able to see a rebroadcast anytime you want, either on our website or our social media. So please look for that afterwards, and you'll be able to see all the candidates' slides there as well. Well, good evening again. My name is Rafael Hernandez, and it is my great pleasure to be able to host tonight with my friend and colleague, Carmen. Carmen, por favor.
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to be a co-host tonight. Buenas noches a todos. Gracias por acompañarnos. And I want to thank everybody for being here, especially the candidates for making the time to connect with the community through this forum and discuss this important topic of housing.
Muy bien. What are some of the housing impacts, Carmen, that you have seen in the community and with folks that participate in your program?
Well, I think I'm gonna kind of tell you a little first about what we do. El Pájaro Community Development Corporation, El Pájaro CDC, as many knows us, has been in the community for 41 years. And we've dedicated our time to promoting equitable community development. And a big part of the work that we do has to do with business development in the community. And we do this in the whole region, Santa Cruz, Monterey, and San Benito County, although our activities started at in the Pajaro Valley and Watsonville specifically. But another thing that the CDC has done is that also when the opportunity has come is to invest in housing. And we are actually a partner for a low-income housing development known as Northgate in Watsonville. Years ago, over 20 years ago, the CDC had the opportunity to invest $1 million that we have available, and we worked this private-public partnership where we were able to build those apartments. There are 84 units that are 84 units that are located in the northeast end of the city. So we believe that having appropriate and housing is very important for any community that wants to thrive, and housing has to be there for everybody. That's what we have and what we do here in the community. And what we've seen, especially lately, is that many of our clients are having to invest a lot of their income in housing. It's always more than 30%, and sometimes as much as 50% of their income. And that makes it hard for people, even if you're running a profitable business that is bringing good income. It's hard because then you have to make decisions sometimes about leaving town, staying in your business, but having to go somewhere else to live, or putting up with living in substandard housing when you're renting. So there's a lot of issues that the members of our community of business owners are facing, but then also other members of the community. A large percentage of the entrepreneurs that work with us were people that in their first career were farm workers. So they're, many times when they start with scarce resources, and it's not easy in this time and this area to afford housing that is, the right kind of housing, and it is part of a healthy community having adequate housing. So that's what we've seen. So we hope that we as a community are able to work together to figure out this conundrum of housing for everybody.
Yes, housing is so central, which is one reason why we're happy to focus this candidate forum on that issue, as it impacts so much more. It's one of our great states, great challenges. So let's talk about the evening. Let's look at the agenda for the evening. Today we're going to be speaking with folks from the city of Capitola, as well as candidates from 2 districts of the city of Watsonville. And we'll hear from them, hear their responses to some questions that we offered them, and have a great discussion. So let's begin with Capitola. In the city of Capitola, we invited all the candidates that we saw were running for city council, and we're happy that Anthony Rovai is here with us today. Anthony Rovai, you're here, you're ready. Let's look at your presentation. You have 2 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me here and that I had time to actually attend this seminar. Waiting for the slide to change. There we go. So I was asked to kind of put some housing strategies together for the city of Capitola. And what Capitola is doing right now is working on streamlining the ADU permits, and along with that, having pre-approved unit plans so you don't have to go through the design process, so you can actually get an ADU in quickly. The other big housing issue that's going to come up during the next 4-year term is the Capitola Mall. So they're going to be bringing back a plan to the council. We're going to have to make sure that it has the right mix of smart retail and housing. And that should really is the only huge project to increase housing in Capitola. So this is a very important issue. So I look forward to being on the council and helping make very smart choices there. Another place that we can get more housing would be to work with the commercial landowners and work with planning to change it to mixed use, so we could do commercial on the bottom and 1 or 2 stories of housing above it. Another thing that we can work on is a down payment assistance program for low to moderate income. And then we need to develop some hotels so that we have the taxes to support housing initiatives. It's just right now, as everybody knows, with COVID, the taxes are greatly down. The city has to cut some services, and we don't have any extra money to actually put in a down payment assistance program. The other issue with Capitola is that we really don't have much land left other than the Capitola Mall redevelopment and working with the other commercial property owners and moving them to mixed use. There really is not much open land available. So work with our surrounding communities can greatly alleviate some of the issues. And then the other thing is part of Capitola is in a qualified opportunity zone. It's kind of along the cliff, the Capitola Pier, and there's a lot of money out there through qualified opportunity zone funds that incentivize people to reinvest into the community.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. Very good. As I'm waiting for my camera to come on here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now what we see, I want to let the folks know that our candidates, along with this slide, also were sent a survey with specific questions on housing. And the questions were yes, the answers to the questions were yes, no, or abstain. Let me read them out to you very quickly. First question, number 1, do you support going beyond the existing renter protections of the state's AB 3088, which is AB 38 for folks out there that may not know the detail of it. It's an eviction relief for residential renters and foreclosure protections for small landlords financially impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's known as the Tenant Homeowner and Small Landlord Relief and Stabilization Act. The second question is, Capitola's inclusionary ordinance requires 15% of new developments be affordable to low, moderate income households or pay in lieu fees. Should this required percentage be increased? 3, do you support efforts to upzone for duplexes, fourplexes in areas currently zoned for only single family homes? 4, do you support strengthening Capitola's current policy restricting vacation rentals to allow for more homes to be available for long-term rentals? 5, do you support requiring the developers of the Capitola Mall redevelopment project to build at least 15% of the units for low to moderate income households on site and not pay in lieu fees? And 6, should the city invest money in helping middle income workers purchase homes in Capitola? So our candidates were sent these questions, and let's look at the answers. So Anthony, we'll give you some time, 3 minutes to go over any of the answers that you want to explain, discuss, clarify, and to close out with your closing comments.
All right, thanks so much. So, to kind of go through the questions, number 1, I believe that the legislation that's already been passed, the AB 3088, it has enough protections in there for current tenants, and that we don't need to keep on extending those protections at this point in time. The next one was the inclusionary zoning is, I also said that, 15% is ample. What I see happening is that we don't have development because it's expensive to develop a piece of property. You have the county fees, the water hookup fees, all these other fees. And I believe that what the city needs to do is actually work to actually develop the housing themselves. And instead of taking and pushing it upon the private sector to do it, you need to really, reach out, work with the developers, incentivize them to build the housing. I really believe in the carrot, not the stick mentality. The number 3, I abstained from it because it's not just a simple yes or no answer on that, especially with Capitola. We really do not have a lot of land in which we could upzone it for duplexes and fourplexes. I believe that the current ADU ordinances that are going to be coming down will help do a lot to infill some more housing for Capitola. Number 4, the strengthening Capitola's current policy restricting vacation rentals. Once again, Capitola really has a pretty good policy in place. Most of Capitola cannot rent for any less than 30 days. So it has to be, at least a 30-day rental. The caveat to that is usually around like Riverview, which is really down close by the beach, and the homes down actually in the village, which seems reasonable because they are, usually vacation homes anyways. I abstain from the Capitol Mall. I really don't want to go one way or the other until I see what is brought back by the developers of the mall, and then I can make an informed decision as to what is the best way to get the project through. And then number 6, absolutely, I would completely support building a fund for to help moderate and low income people to purchase a house through a down payment assistance program, such as a silent second and or an equity share program. I'd really appreciate your time. I look forward to serving the city, and I'd appreciate your vote.
Thank you very much, Anthony.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time. And actually, before you go, I have to comment, that's a beautiful background.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, that was our Capitola portion. Next, we have our Watsonville portion. I'll let Carmen introduce that. But before we go there, I did want to make 2 notes. One for our interpreter, our folks out listening in Espanol, a little explanation on what in lieu fee is. An in lieu fee is essentially when a developer is required to build housing units on site, but they're allowed to pay a fee instead as an alternative to building those units. And the other announcement I want to make about Watsonville is there's a correction. We mentioned that the inclusionary ordinance requires 25% for the city of Watsonville. It's actually 15 to 20% depending on the number of units. So wanted to make that correction. And any candidates who wanted to address that, you'll have time during your presentation or the time you have to speak about the questions to address it if you wish. Okay, Carmen, please.
Thank you, Rafael. So before I continue and present our candidates, can you just clarify, so that in lieu fee has to do with paying a fee instead of building affordable housing? Is that what you're saying? I'm not clear on that. Is that?
Yes, essentially, that's the
Okay.
basic idea.
So is that something that, and we're gonna clarify it for everybody. Okay, thank you. Okay, Well, I want to present the candidates of Watsonville that were invited, candidate from District 1, council candidates from District 2, Aurelio Gonzalez and Vanessa Quiros, who are here, and we thank them for that. And the council candidates for District 6, Jimmy Dutra and Tony Gomez, who are also here, and we thank them here also for that. And I'm going to read the questions similar to what we saw earlier. We had different questions for the candidates in Watsonville. So question 1, do you support going beyond the existing?
Well, actually, Carmen, that'll be the next part after
I'm
their.
sorry, that's true.
That's okay.
Okay, so we are going to let our candidates to do their intro statement. So we first have Vanessa Quiros Carter, who is on District 2. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you, Carmen. My name is Vanessa Quiros Carter, and I am a Watsonville resident, Watsonville native, born and raised. I attended the University of California, Berkeley, where I received my bachelor's degree in English literature. I also attended the CSU East Bay, where I got my degree, my master's degree in communication. And tonight I'm here to talk about the very pressing issue of homelessness and housing conditions and housing affordability and all of those types of things. So I have some action items listed that I would like to enact if elected. So my action items are really about holistic living. So looking at sustainable models of development, and not only development, but also living. So that means things like, do people have clean air to breathe? What does the water supply look like? Are they able to walk to, to get a food source? Is it easily accessible? Is there safety? Is there diversity, right? So really looking at all of those different types of factors when we have these new developments. I'd also like to review the index that's taken into account to determine what qualifies as affordable, because as you all know, we are in an extremely expensive area of California and the nation as a whole. We're in a very expensive area. Folks want to live here, and that drives the prices up. So really, especially amidst the pandemic, we really need to look at those numbers and see if we need to review what actually constitutes affordable. The next thing I would like to do is looking to increase the percentage of affordable units for new developments. So making sure that we have, I think, more than 15 or 20%, having down payment and rental assistance programs, and some programs and services that help keep our residents here and that combat gentrification. So thank you very much for having me tonight, and I look forward to speaking later on.
Thank you, Vanessa. And now we're gonna ask Aurelio Gonzalez to do his intro.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Oh, hang on. Hi, good evening, everybody. Buenas tardes todos, bienvenidos, welcome. My name is Aurelio Gonzalez. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Watsonville. I grew up here, but anyways, on housing, I wanted to go up on housing. The city of Watsonville has historically been a leader in taking a strong stand in providing affordable housing units in our community. But according to the SB 35, we still have not met our regional housing needs allocation. One of the things that affects this allocation is when the county allows land use housing and takes the credits for the housing, then transfer it over to the city. The example is the Pippin Gardens. So what this means is that the county helps build and secure property for housing, but then when the credits come, they get the credit and they hand the housing over to the city to provide the services. So we lose out on credits there for some housing, and the Pippin's a good example of that. Our needs for affordable housing is challenging and growing. With the north side of the county, housing prices becoming out of reach for so many. It's added to the increase in the cost here in Watsonville. And we see that effect happening more and more. And so we need to do, so what can we do now? We have an opportunity to help develop more housing in our downtown area. How currently we are working on a specific adaptation plan for downtown. I will be advocating for farm working, low income, workforce housing to be developed. We can look at rezoning parcels, using underutilized parcels and redevelopment of properties. At the same time, create mixed use for the Main Street corridor, which hopefully will help revitalize downtown. What does this mean? This means that we're bringing hopefully housing closer to downtown and services and making it more equitable for everybody. We also just approved 72 units of apartments on Miles Lane, which will be for the low income. And that's a great project. One of the things that I ran on was to create more housing, and I think I'm keeping to my word on that. The city has partnered with Mid-Penn in giving this project financing. In the near future, we were looking to Eden to build some farm working units off of Freedom Boulevard, Atkinson Lanes. These units are really in need within our community. It's really important to continue to advocate for these kinds of projects within the city of Watsonville. On market rate housing, currently we meet the state SB C35, and currently we have 3 projects that need to be completed. One is a 150 unit housing unit, which unfortunately has run into some financial issues and other project challenges. There's 2 other projects that are still standing. One hasn't started, it's on Airport Boulevard.
Thank you, Aurelio.
Can I finish?
Sure, please.
On ADUs, as of spring, we have processed 26 building permits applications. This is more than the previous years. For planning, the application is ministerial. It is over the counter, so the process has been streamlined. As a city, we need to continue to move forward in more housing units. Thank you. And thank you for that extra time.
Sure, sorry about the cutoff. I want to be fair with everyone. Thank you, sir. Well, as we did with Capitola, we also provided some specific Watsonville questions for the Watsonville candidates. And let's look at the questions before we look at their responses. Carmen.
Yeah, so we are the questions for the City of Watsonville candidates. Number 1, do you support going beyond the existing renter protections of AB 38A? Number 2, Watsonville Inclusionary Ordinance requires 15 to 20% of new developments be affordable to low moderate income households. Should this percentage be increased? Number 3, should the city invest money in helping middle income workers purchase home in Watsonville? Number 4, should the city increase protections for existing residents who feel they may be displaced or priced out by hundreds of new homes or upgraded business envisioned by the downtown plan? Number 5, should the city prioritize investing in more residential housing for farm workers instead of other populations? Number 6, do you consider homelessness as an urgent problem in Watsonville? And number 7, do you consider severely crowded living conditions to be on the spectrum of homelessness? Those are the questions that our candidates responded. We're gonna see how they actually responded to them, and we're gonna let them, the candidates from District 2, let us know a little more about why they responded in one way or another. Aurelio, it's your turn. Thank
you, Carmen. Again, on AB 3088, I abstain from that because that also is it is an urgent bill only, and it will sunset once the pandemic is declared over. We do need to continue looking at the needs of the community and not allow for renters to get too far into debt. And of course, opening back up the economy is a major part of this. We need to have the state step up and continue to help homeowners and landlords as much as possible at the same time. Also, that the abuse of the help does not negatively impact the landlords. Did you want me to continue on the rest of them down line? Yes. Okay. And beyond, and on it's exclusionary on number 2, I said no. And the reason is this, because Watsonville, and then this is where I'm correct, and Watsonville inclusionary ordinance actually is a 20% when more than 15 units are built and no lieu-in fees are allowed. So this means that they have to build the units. 50% is when 7 to 15 units are built. Within less than 7 units are built in, the lieu-in fee can be used. And that's only when it's 6 or less units, the lieu-in fee can be used. The city could look at increasing maybe to 25%, but we must take in consideration the economy, the cost of per square footage, labor, material when looking at increasing this requirement. because sometimes it won't make it feasible to make developments and it'll make it more costly. Number 4, downtown plan displacement. Should the city invest money in helping, See, I lost my place here, but we should. And when we do the specific plan, that's something that should be in there. And we need to make sure that it's there to safeguard the residents, because the housing units that are going to be hopefully built are for our community. Number 5, prioritizing farm workers. The farm working housing should be one of the city's priorities, working with the ag industry, nonprofits in the county, looking at opportunity to use the AB 1783, which was passed in 2019. So this needs to be something that's worked between all of us, the nonprofits, the ag industry, the county, and the city. We need to start looking at how we can develop these projects for our farm workers. And then homelessness. Homelessness in the city of Watsonville has become more of an issue with the influx of transits coming from the city of Santa Cruz and other areas. This needs to be continued to be looked at regional issue and not just a city issue. And so what I'm saying is that we need to look at it as a county issue, how we're going to solve this, because not just the city of Watsonville is going to do it by itself. We do need to look for housing and facilities that will help out. And number 7, yes. Homelessness in the severe crowding living conditions are a spectrum of homelessness. When someone lives in a crowded living space, their self-worth sometimes makes them feel like they have no future. So it's really important that we start trying to reduce the amount of people that are living within a single family unit dwelling and continue to create housing. That's one of the things I ran last time on, is creating housing, and I'm going to continue advocating for more housing within the city limits of Watsonville and its growth. So I thank you for your time, and I hope you can support me in my re-election for city council. So vote yes for Aurelio Gonzalez.
Thank you, Aurelio. Hello, thank you, Aurelio.
Oh, thank you, Carmen.
Yeah, and now I'm gonna ask Vanessa Quiros Carter to comment on her responses, and we want to ask our candidates to, especially focus on what they think they're things that where they have a different opinion. So go ahead, Vanessa.
Thank you, Carmen. So I did say that I think we do need to extend the protections because we are facing something unprecedented. We don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know, how far into the future this pandemic will last. And so I think it just makes sense to me to extend those protections, especially to vulnerable populations, of which we have many here in Watsonville. I think going and on to number 2, I think we absolutely need to increase because 15 to 20% of units is a very low number. And I think we do need more affordable housing. And in order to have more affordable housing, that needs to be built, right? We're at capacity as it is. People are on waiting lists for months, even years sometime. And so we do need to up that capacity in terms of that inclusionary ordinance. And the city absolutely needs to help with homeownership. Homeownership is a dream for many, myself included. And at one point it felt very attainable, and now it feels like just a dream. So I think we need to have more down payment assistance programs, more programs that help people with their finances and really teach people how to save and how to, use those programs to their advantage to be able to realize that dream. Moving on to number 4, I think that absolutely we need more protections. We need to combat gentrification because that is a concern for many in the community, especially with not increasing that number of affordable housing units. Folks will have to leave. That is just a reality. So we need to have programs to help our residents so that they are not displaced, so that they are not pushed out, and that they can stay in Watsonville. Moving on to number 5, yes, farm workers are the backbone of our community. Farm workers give us so much. We are a sanctuary city, and we really need to fight and protect our farm workers. And that starts with housing. That starts in having safe, affordable places for them to be, to live, to go home and relax, and really to be protected and cared for. So we absolutely need to prioritize farm workers. Moving on to number 6, homelessness is an urgent problem, and I'm going to combine number 6 and number 7 together because I think that Watsonville has a little bit of a different face of homelessness, if you will. I think we don't have the sort of transient homeless issue that Santa Cruz faces, but we have something that's a little harder to see. So we have families that are living in multi-generational households that are, that causes a lot of stress. Folks do not have privacy. Folks are strained, for there's no resources. So all of those types of issues happen in those types of multi-generational households. There's parking issues, people are just not living in great conditions. And I myself am in a home, multi-generational household. And so I know firsthand what that's like. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear from people. So please feel free to reach out to me on my website, vanessaquiroscarter.com. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Vanessa. That was right on time. That was just beat the buzzer. That was great. Well,
we're going, go ahead.
Carmen. No, yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're going to continue with City Council District number 6. And we have, first, the next slide is we have candidate Jimmy Dutra, who is going to give us his intro statement. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here this evening. My name is Jimmy Dutra, and I'm running for the Watsonville City Council. In 2014, I had the honor of being elected to the council. I'm served a 4-year term. And during that time, I was active in helping approve many development projects that came in, and made sure that there was an emphasis on affordable housing within all the projects. I've lived here most of my whole life, and I've seen the community change. I remember when I was going to school in the 90s. I'm a teacher, so a lot of my students, they think I'm really old, but back in the day, I still feel like I'm pretty young. There were about 30,000 people were in the population of the city. Now we're pushing double, if not more than that. And hopefully, if everybody does their census, we'll get a good idea about what the population actually is by the end of the year. But with that said, we have a desperate need for housing, and we have so many more people in our community. And when I speak to the parents or to people, a lot of times the parents, they're saying, we would love to have our kids move home, but they can't because they can't afford to live here, or there isn't any housing. So this is something that I have worked on when I was sitting on the city council. And as we further speak about the topics later, I will talk about how I was the president of the shelter, Paro Valley Shelter Services here in Watsonville. And we can talk about the firsthand experiences that I was able to witness and work with the homeless people in our community. So thank you for having me. I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking about the projects that I want to push here in Watsonville. Rafael, is that the time to speak right now?
We'll do that in the next portion.
Oh, okay, great.
Since yeah, that's about time. So no, you're good. Thanks for asking.
Thank you. Next, we have candidate Tony Gomez, and you can start to do your intro statement. Welcome.
Hi, there we go. Clicked in. As you look at my my little PowerPoint, housing agenda and priorities, vertical mixed use density, multi-modular transportation arteries, fill-in projects such as ADU units or affordable, accessory units, affordable housing that is for sale, local control to meet communities' needs. Coming up from the council, there are going to be recent updates to the ADU ordinances that will allow for infill. The other concern is you have 58% of our units in Wattsville are 58% of rental units, development agreements that work, and downtown land use planning. Housing is a priority in Watsonville, our families and our future growth in our community. Watsonville is one of the highest density communities per capita in the state of California, based on the 6.5 miles we have. One of the goals would be to work with our housing demand, utilizing zone changes made to our downtown to allow growth to go vertical and multi-story, where it would be deemed acceptable and be applicable to where transportation is well available, as well as fill-in projects where as possible. Housing needs to be balanced with local jurisdictions should have the ability to decide what's best for the community. Watsonville currently, like I said, has 58% rental rate. The cost is so expensive, we do not have the ability to sell the units. There's not been one single family unit in Watsonville since 2006. I would like to see nonprofits flex their business model and balance affordable units for rent for as well as for sale. And that should pretty much cover what I'd like to open with for housing. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Well, with this one, we asked them the same survey questions for District 6. So a quick look at those questions again. We'll have, as you see, it's the same questions on the AB 3088, on the inclusionary ordinance, on helping middle workers. Number 4 is increase protections for existing residents regarding the downtown plan. 5, prioritization of farm worker housing. 6, about homelessness. 7 is severely overcrowded living conditions on the spectrum of homelessness. So let's look at how the candidates answered these questions. It's yes, no, or abstain. Let's take a look at how they answered. And here we see there's some are the same, some are slightly different. Let's listen to our candidates discuss how they answered and why they answered that way. And we'll see how we can distinguish, maybe find some differences and some commonalities. Jimmy Dutra, the floor is yours. You have 3 minutes to go over this and to give your closing statements.
Great, thank you. I guess I should have probably gone over my slide a little bit more, but since some of these questions actually address it, I abstained on the first one because I also believe that not only is this sunsetting, but we also need to make sure that landlords are being protected as well. I had the opportunity to speak to a Spanish-speaking only lady, probably in her late 70s, early 80s, and she was telling me how her rental was the only form of income she was getting to survive. And so, you know, we need to protect the renters, but we also need to protect the landlords. So I need to make sure that everybody is included when we move forward on this. The 15 to 20%, I was definitely supportive of it, but we got to make sure that the projects pencil out. So developers will not come into our community if projects do not pencil out. So we want to make sure that we are attracting developers so that they can build houses, because without them, they just don't magically get built by themselves. So we need to make sure that we do not scare them off and that they actually come into town to build the housing for us. The city investment of middle income workers, yes, I agree with my, as well as Tony. Downtown plan displacement projects, I am a big supporter of mixed use. I believe that having commercial on the bottom will not only provide housing on the top, but also build our economy. So making sure that we do mixed use downtown is something I'm completely supportive of. The farm workers, that's a difficult question because we have very little space inside of the city limits. And we need to work with the county and to build this housing. That housing should definitely be out in the county portion, especially where a lot of our migrant workers go to work. And so working with the county as a city, that would be the best option for this. Finding land inside of Watsonville to do such a huge project will be very difficult since we are a small 6.5 by 6.5 square foot city. And homelessness, definitely a huge problem. I see this all the time. We do see the problem coming down from Santa Cruz. And unfortunately, you may not always see it on the streets, but if you go down into our schools and into hidden places, there are cities. So I had the experience of going down there and seeing exactly firsthand the homelessness issue that we do have. And severely crowded living conditions. Currently, I'm a teacher. I have been watching my students study inside of closets, background noise of, families, loud families. There's no privacy for them to do their work. There's many people living in a house. So this is definitely an issue that we do need to address. And I'm always feeling bad for our students because they just don't have the space in order to, successfully, receive the education that they deserve. So I definitely agree that these living conditions, crowded living conditions, are something that we need to be concerned about and help improve. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Well, let's look at candidate Tony Gomez. Please, you have 3 minutes to go over the questions and to give your final comments for the evening. The floor is yours.
Hopefully video started. Oh, there we go. Okay. I abstained on AB 3088, and I did go through and research a little bit on it. And my concerns are anytime you have legislative interaction on a long-term unintended, you have unintended consequences that need to be weighed and factored into any legislative intervention. That particular law is already set to be in effect till 2025. So we're talking 5 years of government interaction on that particular law. Looking at the 25%, actually, it's actually 20%, and a project's more than 49 units, and 15% of the project falls below that threshold. The increased number of our current rate that already exists exceeds the state limits. Such would be insurmountable costs to developers, and we have to actually virtually have no opportunity to create a balance of what types of housing in our community. But I do support it, and I support what's adopted now. Looking at the city investing in middle income for housing, I believe it's a challenge is going to be, where's the funding going to come from for the resources for that? Even middle class income find it almost impossible for affordability in Watsonville. And that reflects back to, you know, we are the most expensive county in the nation to live at. Downtown plan on as far as displacement, data needs to be gathered and evaluated. There are local mandates in place now that require affordable units in any downtown development that are currently exceeding the state requirements. I would err on the side of caution and wait until we have data that is more about any displacement impacts to new homes, businesses, and developments that would create. Let's see where we at here. Prioritizing rental units, farm housing. I abstained from that because I don't know we really have all the data in play for that as far as what is the actual need, and not knowing a map of where we want to, where you can infill or possibly infill. It's kind of, I don't jump to any conclusions unless I have considerate data. Now, considering homeless as an urgent problem, Watsonville, it is. And homelessness is a thing that's just not going to go away. It's a problem that's going to be chronic. It's a problem that's mental. It could be alcohol. It could be drug related. In some cases, it could be financial, which is understandable. But it's a tough cookie to crack because it's never going to go away. And you have people that fall into that system and don't want to get out. As far as crowding conditions for homelessness, yeah, we see that one criteria, creating overcrowding along with multi-generational households that need to live together in order to afford the cost of living in Watsonville. And that itself is, having that multi-generation family in one household. Yeah, if they didn't do that, yes, they would probably be out on the street. So I definitely agree that we do have an issue there.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time here. Well, Carmen, we heard from all our candidates. Thank you all for being here. What do you think?
Well, I think this has been a great way of learning more about the vision that the different candidates have. As I've been listening, I actually have something that I want to comment that has to do with talking about overcrowding conditions and multi-generational housing. I think that we have to be careful about creating a stigma about multi-generational housing. There are two different things. Sometimes because several generations live in a house, it could be overcrowded, but not always. And, at least in communities like mine, we always had like the old grandmother that we were caring for, that we want to have at the house. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't be allowed that. So I think that we need to be careful with using that term as a negative term. Overcrowding is overcrowding, and it could be not just multi-generational, it could be many reasons. It could be like all the illegal units that we have where there's a garage where a family is living there. That's the problem. It's not the, the multi-generational housing. So I just wanted to make that point. And I'm very happy that we did this today. I love it. I think it makes me remember my civics class and the importance of participating in the community is really a democratic exercise. I think that you have something to remind people of, by the way.
Oh, that's right. Well, one, to your point, I'm glad that we have our candidates here to participate, to provide this discussion for the public, which is why we do these things. And we need to have these discussions to know how to work the right way forward. And to that point, you're right. Thank you for reminding me. The census is one way that all of us can do our part to help our situation move forward. A lot of you have filled out the census. If you haven't, there's still a little time. We have a few days left in September. The end of September is the deadline. Please fill out the census. It means more federal funding for our jurisdictions, which is good for education, can be used for emergency service, street maintenance, and housing. It also means more public representation, more political representation at the Capitol, which is very important. So please go fill out the census. We still have a few days left if you haven't done so already. And right here, you see that we want you to sign up for our Action Center. We will be putting the link of our Action Center when we do the recap and in our social media. That is a way to stay informed and to participate in this civic activity that Carmen was remembering in civics class, which I hope they're still doing.
Do you remember where the word democracy comes from? I was always a fan of Latin roots. So demos means in Spanish pueblo or people, and kratos means government. So the government of people. So that's what a democracy is. And one way of exercising that is doing participating in forums like this. So I'm very, very happy that we did this. And I think I also want to remind people that this has been recorded and that we need to share this with the community so that everybody else that wasn't able to stay online right now, they could see it and watch it. So please share. I don't know if you want to do any other comments.
I think you've said it all, just like we talked about. Thank you to our candidates. Thank you for you folks at home tuning in. Thank you to everyone who's helped put this together. And Carmen, it's been always a pleasure to spend time with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In this.
Thank you all for coming.
Buenas noches. Have a good
Buenas
night.
noches.
Fill out the census. Thank you all. Gracias.